Hi guys, welcome back to the To Be Redefined podcast. We're back again.
In a different location though.
We are. I feel like it changes every week at this point because we're having scheduling conflicts with other people who have to film in the same household. So, sorry guys. You get to be outside with us today.
It's honestly pretty nice right now.
I know. It's like the wind died down, so fingers crossed it will stay that way.
And that it doesn't rain.
Yes, I know. But hopefully this will be like fairly quick. Yeah. But anyway, this week we are trying out the new format a little bit. We are gonna be reacting to a video today by Brene Brown, which, if you don't know who she is, she's a professor, an author, and a motivational speaker. The clip today is from a TED Talk that she did. And yeah, we made a joke. Cambry made a funny joke earlier. She was like, if you don't know who Brene Brown is, then you're living under a rock. And I said, I didn't know who she was. I had to go Google her.
So we had a good laugh beforehand.
We
like
did.
Literally 3 minutes ago.
We did. So yeah, that's
but now you know.
Now I know, and I'm more educated for it. So I'm so proud of us. Anyway, so yeah, let's play the video and we'll come back and chat about it.
Honestly, how many of you, honestly, when you're thinking about doing something vulnerable or saying something vulnerable, think, God, vulnerability is weakness. This is weakness. How many of you think of vulnerability and weakness synonymously? The majority of people. Now, let me ask you this question. This past week at TED, how many of you, when you saw vulnerability up here, thought it was pure courage? Vulnerability is not weakness. I define vulnerability as emotional risk, exposure, uncertainty. It fuels our daily lives. And I've come to the belief, this is my 12th year doing this research, that vulnerability is our most accurate measurement of courage. To be vulnerable, to let ourselves be seen, to be honest.
Right. So yeah, I don't know. When I saw that video this week, it just had me thinking, like, you know, when we come from difficult situations where, you know, we can't really necessarily trust the people in our lives and trust that they are capable of handling our emotions and things like that, and they prove that they're untrustworthy. It's really hard to be vulnerable with people. Like, I don't know about you, but I struggle with that, where, you know, you kind of get this like blanket idea that everybody is kind of not to be trusted, and they have to like almost prove themselves trustworthy to you. And yeah, I don't know. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing to be like cautious with people, but I definitely think like we need to kind of talk about that.
Yeah, I think that in any relationship, not just in like with our spouses or anything like that, like vulnerability is how you deepen the relationship because it's really about knowing people and letting yourself be known as well. And I do think that, yeah, it can be really difficult when you grow up, and because I remember times when I was just honest with the parent that hurt me a lot, and she was not to be trusted with my honesty, and so that taught me that. And I mean, I was very young when that happened, but in my mind it was like, okay, well then nobody can be trusted with this. And yeah, it can become something that you kind of have to fight against once you're out of those situations, because again, like, I think that Brene Brown is right that vulnerability, it is a courageous thing, but it's also necessary for our relationships to grow and flourish.
100%. And I think, like, yeah, we both were in fairly similar situations. I feel like where, you know, vulnerability was not rewarded. Like, you were rewarded for being the person that other people thought you should be,
right?
And for stroking their ego, and for you know, making them feel like they were always right and they were always, you know, the best parent, and the way you portrayed yourself to them, you couldn't be vulnerable. And then when you were around them and the way you were portraying yourself to even other people, everything had to kind of go along with that narrative of who everyone thought you were. And if you were not who your parent thought you were, even to other people, it was a problem, because things could get back to that parent or whoever that person is for you. And then you would kind of have to pay for it later, and you would hear about it later. And so it, you know, it turned into like, not only am I not really myself around that person, I'm also not really myself around everybody else, because I don't feel safe to, and I have this persona and this personality that I kind of have to hold up to everyone else, and that's not really who I am. And I think that really like was hard for me, because I didn't really know who I was, because my whole life was just pretending for other people for years and years and years. And so yeah, I think it was definitely like a journey for me, and you know, took time, and it's still taking time. Like, we're still every day learning more about ourselves and becoming more of who we are, and who we want to become. But yeah, I think that's definitely very true, that it is important in any relationship to be fully yourself. Like, obviously it's important to be that way so you can feel good about yourself and love yourself fully, because nobody feels good pretending to be someone they're not. Like, you
not
know
knowing
the difference.
who you are.
Like, you know the difference in your heart. And then also, like, yeah, it's for our most important relationships to grow, it is so important, because you know, I kind of struggle with that in marriage too for a while, of like, if I don't know who I am, like, I'm just kind of trying to please everybody, and like including my husband, and being, you know, who I think he would like to be married to and stuff like that. And so yeah, over time you just kind of lose all sense of self. And it takes some time of having to kind of refocus and really be intentional about it. Like, it really took me taking time to like sit down and kind of like journal my feelings and my thoughts, and kind of rediscover like over time what's important to me, what my values are, like what makes me me, so that I can, you know, show that to other people and give that to the people that I love, you know?
Yeah, and I think that that's definitely the core of it, of just like, if you don't know who you are and what you're about, then how are you going to share that with anyone else?
For
anyways? And yeah, I think that especially when it comes to like childhood trauma, you aren't given a solid foundation to like build upon when it comes to your sense of self. And so you really do become enmeshed with the person that you're trying to please. And again, it becomes more that, like, you know, I'm not thinking about my mom caring about my feelings, I'm thinking about my mom's feelings. And so then there's no room for vulnerability in that. And I do think that it's really important, like, that we're talking about healthy relationships when it comes to vulnerability, that like, if it's an abusive situation or a toxic situation, then there's not there's not high demand for vulnerability in those moments, because it can actually be very dangerous.
Yeah, because they can, you know, use that against you in the future.
Yes,
for sure. And yeah, I agree. Like, I think that actually is one of like the markers of a relationship that you should be pursuing or not pursuing, is the ability to be yourself around that person, and to be vulnerable with your feelings with that person, and feel safe to do so. If you don't feel safe to do so, if they, you know, hang it over your head or bring it up later or put you down, even like in a joking way, you know, I think that can be really damaging, and that can be a relationship that you can kind of look out for and be like, okay, maybe I should kind of guard myself and guard my heart, and like not put 1,000% of myself into this relationship, because it's not healthy for me to do so. And you know, there are people where, you know, they show you again and again like who they are as people, and that they're not safe, and they're not healthy, and they're not people that you can open up to and be yourself with. And believe people when they show you that, like, believe them. That's not to say people can't change and time can't heal things, but believe people when they repeatedly hurt you,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of distance yourself from them.
And on the flip side of that, like the people that you do feel like you can be vulnerable with, like that, those are the relationships that you should put effort into. That's where it's a very valuable thing to have relationships like that. And yeah, I completely agree with what you said. That, like, I mean, people are going to show you who they are, and like, believe them when they do that. Because yeah, I think that especially when it comes to trust in relationships, like trust is very easily broken, but you don't get it back again quickly. And I think that that's something that when it comes to like abusive relationships and things like that, um, they think that it's very easy to win your trust back, and so they become very offended and hurt when you don't offer them that vulnerability again. And also, I think that a lot of times when it comes um, to those kinds of relationships, whether it be things that took place in childhood or things that took place as an adult, um, I think that oftentimes, at least in my experience, I don't know if you've experienced this or not, like my mom would often pretend like she knew me better than anyone else knew me. And the truth was that I had created this, I like the word that you used, persona. I had created this just like persona and facade that I used around her because it was how I was coping with it at that time. And so there was no place for vulnerability in that relationship anyways, but it also is a comfort to me to know that my mom didn't actually know the true me, and that is something special that I get to share with people who are healthy and people who do support me.
I like that a lot. That's like
Yeah.
that's actually such a good like a positive way to think about it, because yeah, no, I 100% relate. Like, you know, it was definitely like my mom thought that she knew me because that's kind of like,
Because she's your mom.
yeah, like we're best friends, like,
Yeah.
you know, that we, how could she not know the real me? And so like but it was all a persona and all this like kind of act that I had put on, just to make her happy, because I don't know about your mom, but my mom, like, there was no disagreeing with them. There was no like, you know,
Having
being
an
your own
opinion,
person
yeah.
at all. Like, it's basically just easier to just shut up and do what they want, basically. And so, especially when you're kind of like a helpless kid and you can't really do anything different, and you can't like get out of that situation, you're just kind of doing what you have to survive. So I 1000% agree with that. And yeah, I really like the way that you spun that. And it's so funny, I love when a topic like coincides with what's going on in like my personal life. It's the best.
Same.
Yeah, because like, you know, there are those people that when they've proven that they are not safe people, you know, sometimes circumstances will change. They will try to like prove that they are different now. They'll try to prove that, you know, they care about your boundaries and they're okay with like you moving slowly and
They learn the
working
lingo.
things back. Yeah, like they pretend they want to work on things, and they pretend that they're going to respect you and respect your boundaries and respect how you feel about things and move at your pace that you feel safe doing. But you know, you give it another try and they are not actually willing to respect your boundaries, and not willing to understand where you're coming from. And that's again an immediate red flag. Like, if people cannot respect your boundaries and respect where you're coming from, they don't have to agree. Like, we don't all agree on everything, especially when there's been conflict in relationships. But if they're not willing to let you slowly work on trust with them,
and again, be yourself and have your own personality and opinions and,
and
those things.
your own boundaries, and like, because you're not gonna, when someone's broken your trust, you're not gonna go back to bam 1000% I'm opening my whole heart to you. And like, you shouldn't be that way. And so yeah, if people are not willing to work with you on that and be patient with you and understand and work at your pace that you're comfortable with, you know, you did the right thing by trying to work on things with them and restore relationship. But again, that's them showing you that they're not respecting your boundaries now. They're not ever going to respect your boundaries. And they're not someone that you can safely be vulnerable with. And I mean, you have to make that choice of what's best for you in that situation.
Right.
But a lot of the time, it's just to stay distant from them,
Yeah.
you know, not be in contact with them, and just it solidifies what you believed in the first place, that they're not a good person for you to be close with, you know?
Yeah, definitely. And I think that that does play a lot into like how we look at other people and how we learn to trust them as well. I do think that there needs to be a lot of grace for the stage of healing where it's just like, you know, I don't feel like I can trust anyone with my feelings and emotions. And like I think it's okay to recognize that that's the place that you're in. But we also like kind of the point of this whole podcast is to talk about our journeys and where we've been and where we want to go and things like that. And like we do want to have like goals in mind as well, of not just like, well, this is the way I am because of my childhood trauma, but also like what kind of person do I want to be and what choices can I make to get myself there. And like again, I think that it's perfectly okay to recognize that you're not in a spot where vulnerability feels safe or comfortable, but that's not where you want to stay either. And we always want to keep on moving forward and not becoming victims of what happened to us. But and I really like what Brene Brown said too, just like, you know, it's courageous, and I want to be able to think of myself in that way, that like, you know, I'm not just a victim to my mom's abuse when I was a kid. Like I want to be courageous and confident in all those things. And I think that it takes a lot of hard work and just thinking and being aware of your thought patterns and just like your relationships and things like that. But I do think it's worth it.
100%. Yeah, it's all about growth. Like, it's okay to acknowledge and accept where you're at, and then set goals and set kind of benchmarkers of like, how can I progress in this area and how can I work on this. And honestly, the best way to work on that is by finding those people, even if it's one person that you trust and can trust with everything, and start by opening up to them. And then over time, like, you know, your belief in people will start to change too, because like I definitely had this belief that no one could be trusted.
Like everyone's out to get you.
Yeah, and like people are inherently just like not good people, and like
they don't want what's best for you ever.
Right. And like everyone like wants to hurt you and stuff like that. And so it definitely took a while of kind of reframing that mindset, but I definitely think that that's, you know, obviously the goal is to start small, start with one person you can trust, and start like opening your heart to people, because while also having discretion and intuition and all of those things, because you know, ultimately being an open person, that's how you attract those wonderful people in your life. Because you know, when you're very guarded and very closed off, a lot of the time people are going to mirror what you are giving to them, and so it's just going to reinforce and be confirmation bias that everyone like is out to get you, nobody likes you, nobody's worth being trusted. So yeah, just start slow, start small, and you know, over time it gets easier. So
for sure.
But yeah, I really liked this week of the podcast. Yeah, we're gonna start doing this more. So again, if you guys have any videos you want us to react to or anything, send them to us via Instagram, or you could like drop the link in the comments below. But yeah, we love you all, and we hope you have a good week.
Bye.
Bye.